All right, today's tip's going to be about MailWiz and email marketing. The last couple of weeks and months have been filled with conversations and folks that I've been sending towards my blog post from a couple of years ago called Email Bonanza. For anybody that isn't familiar with it, I just put some common sense scenarios and best practices for email marketing together from lots of conversations that I've had with folks over the years that want to scale, responsibly scale, and stay safe. And obviously, it pairs up nicely with ListFlex. But the MailWiz component, I have a love-hate relationship with it, but MailWiz is a really simple, nice, cheap interface, one-time fee, if you don't already have it or aren't familiar with it, where you can wire up your SMTPs off the bat, pipe your leads in, automate everything. The love part is simplicity, price, those types of things. But the part that I dislike is that it's a little clunky and some challenges with easily getting clickers and openers and things like that. But this isn't about this isn't about MailWiz. This video is about just wiring up MailWiz because so many guys are kind of moving in this direction. There's other interfaces like this that have recurring fees that are out there. This philosophy that I'm going to talk about today, it's the same, works the same way. The gist of this is going to be, organizing different orders and how to set those up so that you can fire them off into an interface or a front end like MailWiz, and then have your SMTPs do all the work. So what does that look like? So I went in and today I created a client, and the client is going to be obviously a destination. And that client today was MailWiz, MailWiz 1 to be exact. And inside of ListFlex, when you're creating orders that are live posts, on imported data, you have some luxuries like deduping on the client side, where one order can look at other orders to make sure that you're not sending duplicates. Now, obviously, there's flexibility there. You can change it to anything you want. But in this specific scenario, I set up the client. After I set up the client, the next thing I did is I set up the integrations. So what I did was I created an integration for each list. So there's list 1 and then there's list 2 here, and you'll see the names kind of match. Okay, so there's an international list and a US list. And the difference between these two APIs is simply this ID, which you can grab right here. It's a unique list ID inside of MailWiz. Obviously, if you're using a different system, a similar scenario would apply. As far as my recommendation is, set up an API for each list, and then we'll tie those to specific orders. Okay, so I set up the client. I set up an API, for each list inside of MailWiz. The next thing I did was I went and I created an actual order to deliver and send leads. So this order right here, the client again is MailWiz 1. It's already kind of dripped some leads in since I set it up a few minutes ago. But basically, I'm going to click on the wrench and just show you this. Inside the order details, you'll see all kinds of stuff that is in other tutorials. But the most important part here is the integration. So the integration's right here. This is the list that this order is going to be piping to. The other thing I mentioned a moment ago, because we're going to have multiple lists, multiple orders inside this client, is we don't want to send duplicates. So in this case, as leads roll into ListFlex, they're going to roll out. And the list is right here. Now, you could have multiple lists. So if you had 2 or 3 or 4 different lists that you wanted to segment and drip and send out to the different lists in MailWiz, you can do that. But in this scenario right here, all of the details of, I kind of map them out, set up the order, it's active, it's good to go. However, I want to quickly create a new order for the second list. And we have a copy feature in ListFlex. And when you make a change, so we'll change the integration because this is the new order and the new list that we want. We're going to leave all the other settings the same. We're going to leave the dedupe the same because we want to make sure these two orders do not get the same leads. And that would be the same if we had a third and a fourth and a fifth and so forth. And then down here at the bottom, we're going to hit make a copy. So we'll hit make a copy. And good to go. Okay, so on outgoing posts, which is kind of your your sanity check on all of your orders and everything, you'll see that we just made a copy of this list. But what's really important is this column here called integration. So every day when you come in, you can log in and you can see, okay, this many leads went to this list, this many leads went to this list, and so forth and so on. This specific scenario, I've clearly set up lists to be US and international because the list that's going to be going to these is going to have a wide range of countries in it. I'm going to do other tutorials and other trainings on this that I'll send out later. But my recommendation to you is if you're going to set up MailWiz, great, set it up. I'm going to have a tutorial next week that's going to give you insight on my recommendations to what server you should use and kind of some of the basic specifications, and you can have your tech guy do it, or hire someone for $50 or whatever on Elance to do it. But I'll start giving you guys more details on this simple setup. But as far as creating the client, which is MailWiz, you're going to then create the APIs, which I didn't go over this, but I'll do it really, really quickly. So inside the client MailWiz, up here under more options is API integrations. And if you hit add new, MailWiz is one of the predetermined options. So you would just put your domain in there that you're using. There's a little descriptor up here, and the list ID, which I just showed you. It's that ID that's in the endpoint. You put those in there, and then the system will build the API for you, and then you can just pretty much copy them from there. But it's really simple. So set up the client, set up the APIs, and then you go in, you create the orders, and then you can copy them and just change one thing, literally, or two if you want to, change the lists that are going, from ListFlex into MailWiz. But like I said, there's going to be more tutorials and trainings coming up because there's so many people kind of fired up right now about email, about MailWiz, front ends, SMTPs, and I'm going to do my best to give you guys kind of some common sense tactics that'll make it easy for you to deploy this, really quickly. So I'll keep you guys posted as I launch more information and some of the blog posts and tutorials and videos and stuff. But if you have any questions about mailing this setup, just let me know, and I'll get you taken care of. So with that, thanks.